Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD bodybuilder, back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to bulk. So this is going to be a step-by-step tutorial on lean bulking. If your primary goal is to increase muscle size, you're probably going to be spending the majority of your time bulking. So it's really important to know how to do it properly. Quick outline for today. First, we're going to talk about how to figure out your maintenance calories. Then we'll go on to discuss magnitude of surplus. And lastly, we'll delve into macros. If you've been enjoying my content so far, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get right into it. First, we're gonna talk about maintenance calories. This is a concept that I think it's really important for us to have a good grasp of as bodybuilders because it's really gonna be your starting point, whether your goal is to bulk, cut, or recomp. Now you'll see a lot of people talking about different methods of calculating your maintenance calories. There are calculators online or methods that people will try to use to estimate, but I think the best way is to actually work back retrospectively. There are two ways you can do this. First way would be to maintain your weight for 1 to 2 weeks and track what you're eating. If your weight stays stable over a 1 to 2 week period, that means you're at your maintenance calories by definition. And if you kept track of what you were eating during that time and then count those calories, that will be your maintenance calorie intake. This is the most accurate way of figuring out your maintenance calories because it actually uses the gold standard of your actual scale weight that stays stable in order to come up with the final number. Your actual calorie expenditure can fluctuate depending on a number of variables, and it's very difficult to estimate that prospectively. Okay, so what if your weight didn't actually maintain for those 1 to 2 weeks? Well, you can use the second method where you use the rule that 1 pound of fat equals 3,500 calories. And you'll use this rule to figure out what your maintenance calories would be if you weren't in that deficit or surplus. So let's say during that initial tracking week, your weight went up by 1 pound. You gained 1 pound over that 1 week, which is 3,500 calories over the week and 500 calories of surplus per day. So if you ate 3,000 calories each day during that week, your actual maintenance calories would be 2,500 calories. Now at this point you might be thinking, wait a second, the rule is 1 pound of fat. What if you're bulking and you're actually gaining muscle as well? In short, it may not be perfectly correct, but it's still a very good approximation and it's what I would personally use. All right, now that we've figured out our maintenance calories, what magnitude of surplus should we be shooting for? Now, the best way I think to do this is to actually work backwards from your ideal rate of gain. I talk more about the ideal rate of gain for bulking in my lean bulking versus dirty bulking video, but the takeaways are that as a beginner, that means if you're in your first 1 to 2 years of serious training, you should be trying to gain weight at about 1 to 1.5% of your body weight per month. And if you're intermediate or advanced, which means you've been training for at least 2 years seriously, you should be gaining weight at about 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per month. Once you know how quickly you want to gain weight, you can work backwards and figure out your calories from there. So say if you wanted to gain 1 pound per week, that's 3,500 calories per week or 500 calories per day that you would add onto your maintenance calories. All right, so now let's apply what we've talked about in an example. Say we're talking about a 200-pound beginner whose maintenance calories is 3,000. Now let's say their rate of gain is going to be 1% of their body weight per month. 1% of 200 pounds is going to be 2 pounds of gain per month. And if you divide that by 4, that's 0.5 pounds of body weight gain per week. And if you want to put that into calories, 0.5 pounds of body weight gain per week, if you multiply that by the 3,500 calories per pound rule, you'll get 1,750 calories per week. Or if you divide that by 7, that becomes a 250 calorie surplus per day. And if you add that 250 calorie surplus onto your 3,000 calories of maintenance, you've got your bulking calories, which is 3,250 calories per day. All right, so lastly, let's touch on macros. So once you've figured out your calories, how do you break them down into your macronutrients? Really, the only important number when it comes to macros is your protein intake. Now I've actually changed my stance on protein recommendations. My current recommendation is 0.72 to 1.0 grams per pound of body weight per day. That's 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilo per day. Note that this is just the minimum amount. It's fine to have more, and I talk more about the pros and cons in my protein video. But on a side note, you should be aware that I do change my recommendations based on the literature as it comes out. Now, I wish everything I said would be correct forever, but fitness is still a very evolving field in terms of science, and it's important for me as a communicator to update my opinions based on the current evidence. Coming back to macros, as I said, protein is really the only number that actually matters. So once you figure out your calories and once you figure out your protein intake, you can just add in carbs and fats to fill the balance of your calories. To do this, just remember that each gram of protein and carbs are 4 calories each, and each gram of fat is 9 calories. Now, in terms of the partitioning between carbs and fats, my current recommendation is to go for a balanced approach or to go more high carb. This is something you'll have to experiment with and see what works best for you. Now that we've gone through the steps for setting up a bulking phase, how do we actually implement this? In terms of tracking, I would suggest starting off by weighing yourself daily and taking the weekly averages. If you're more experienced, you can just weigh yourself a few times a week, but I think at the beginning it's very helpful to understand how your weight fluctuates throughout the week based on your eating and your activity levels. Now, if you know how many calories you're taking in through the week, and you also track your weight changes, you can adjust your calorie intake on the fly to hit that optimal rate of bulking. Now, in terms of tracking macros, I think the easiest way to do this is to just estimate your portion sizes and then Google the nutrition facts. Optionally, you could also do MyFitnessPal. Now, I want to emphasize here that tracking macros all the time is optional when bulking. I do think it is helpful to track for a certain period of time, but I think your goal should be to get really good at eyeballing macros so you don't always need to be meticulously keeping track. If you watch my full day of eating videos, when I'm bulking, I eat very intuitively. And since you're going to be spending most of your time bulking, it's important to do this in the most sustainable way possible. That's all for now, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video and comment below. I'm really good about answering every single one of my comments, so you'll definitely hear back from me. In particular, how many calories are you aiming to take in per day? Let me know below. Now, big announcement, I'm actually just launching my official Dr. Swole merch. I'm really proud of this logo that embodies the science-based bodybuilding that I think everyone on this channel should also be supporting. So we've got t-shirts, tanks, and hoodies. Check out the link in the description below. Now, if you're still wondering about your macros and how many carbs and fats you should be taking, check out my video on a low carb versus high carb approach for muscle growth and fat loss, where we talk about the pros and cons of keto, low carb, a balanced approach, and a high carb approach for bodybuilding. Having a handle on your macros is going to be very important, especially if you want to take your results to the next level. If you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. See you next time.